My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. It is Thursday, July 17, 2025. It's currently 9:31 a.m. And this is the P.O.C. podcast, as I do remain subject to the pattern of conduct, which is relevant to exposing criminal surveillance. And this is the perpetual sex offense as it's underway, where you are remaining inside of a private space, such as a hotel room, also in what is a restroom, also your private residence where you live, even as a roommate. This is the documentation captured at 9:32 a.m. I'm going to capture video right now of the entity keeping the fake sun over me while I'm at Economy Inn. And you're mindful of 9:32 a.m. the entity has the fake sun over the Ontario Police Department at 2500 South Archibald Avenue, and as I documented at the Ontario City Hall off of B Street adjacent to the Ovid Family Community Library. This is P.O.C. All right, it is currently 9:32 a.m. It's Thursday, July 17, 2025, and this is documentation of what is impossible light activity. And this is layers of light. This is concentrated light that you could see trailing across the ceiling. As you can see, it has nothing to do with what is naturally going to occur through the door even being cracked open. This is demonic activity. Demonic activity is recognized in the environment. This is speaking to what is demonic activity, which is relevant to this engineer light, because this is also not sunlight. And as I put my hand in the air, you can see my shadow, and then you have this fanning out of light that's spreading across. This is layers. So this line of light right here is concentrated. And then this is another layer of engineered light, and it's also traveling down the wall. And this is occurring as I crack the door open. This light has nothing to do with the door opening. This is engineered light, and this is demonic. In the same way that the fake sun outside has nothing to do with this light that you see here. This is a covered structure outside. This is impossible light activity. And this is evidence of what is stalking by a population as well, okay? The entities engaged in criminal surveillance, all of the people of the state that are gang stalking they're sharing in surveillance in the state of California. And it is evident through the engineered light, the maintenance of light, and they are monitoring while they're maintaining what is activity. This traffic is something that is never going to be heard inside of the hotel. It's called amplification of audible activity. While that is the case, and that is also evidence that the people of the state are targeting you. They're targeting you through what is engineered light, and the entity is doing so on behalf of the government, okay? 9:32 a.m., the entity, you can see it off of the objects here. This is the fake sun that's over the same location where it is at 12:52 p.m. like I documented here. This is the evidence of the fake sun reflecting off of a windshield. The entity is doing the same thing when I'm in Los Angeles. I'm showing you the entity keeping the fake sun reflecting off of the vehicles in the parking lot at Alvarado Gardens. I'm showing the entity keeping the fake sun reflecting off of the vehicles at Woodside Senior Apartments. The entity that has the fake sun over the Ontario Police Department is not going to reflect off of a vehicle at Economy Inn at 2301 South Euclid Avenue. The sun is not going to be over the same property, the same location, including the same person at the same property at the same location. 3.5 hours from now at 12:51 p.m. where I'm showing you it's still right here over my room. This is the pattern of conduct. And this is the entity that is indeed engaged in what is monitoring me inside of a private space. This is the pattern of the gate that's appearing. This gate is appearing above my head. This is where the city of Ontario is engaged in the P.O.C, all right? This is where a bunch of sex offenders are monitoring my vagina as I remain inside of a private space where the government has no legitimate interest. The government has no constitutional authority to engage in surveillance, which is the case in a specific environment where the entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct. The reason I'm walking to this end of the parking lot, I'm going to show you what is the evidence of stalking of the fake sun as I go to the opposite end of this hotel. And this is crossing path. Everybody in their hotel rooms is stalking. This is referred to as gang stalking. It's federal group stalking and monitoring. And the people of the state that are patrons at this venue are targeting me. And the entity, the city of Ontario, which is the state of California, is targeting me in concert with, in reliance upon the demons who are patrons at this venue, both employed, working, managing the venue, and also remaining on the venue, including coming onto the venue, as you see in the entity gang stalking through U.S.C, making a delivery, and they're gang stalking, engaged in the same exact pattern of conduct. So this is the maintenance of that surveillance system. It's 9:36 a.m. This is the fake sun. This is P.O.C. The entity maintaining the fake sun, and this is not going to be reflecting off of that windshield over there in front of my room. This is the evidence of the entity moving the fake sun as I move. And I've already documented the entity keeping the fake sun at Economy Inn from sunrise until sunset. Okay, so literally standing at this location, and I'm capturing the fake sun at 6:26 p.m. I've already shared that on the YouTube channel. It's all of the published documentation, including the kidnapping that this same entity that is still gang stalking me in 2025. This is relevant to time in federal prison. It's relevant to civil damages. It's relevant to the impunity of the entity that is still gang stalking while keeping the evidence of its system, which is fully exposed under surveillance. This is where the city of Ontario is engaged in what is payment for the room. That's not an excuse to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring. It's an unlawful threat. It's also a threat while this same entity that is paying for the room is the same entity that committed kidnapping with the intent to obstruct justice. And this is the fake sun moving as I move, okay? This is the same venue where the entity has the fake sun over me at 12:51 p.m. Right here, you saw yesterday the city of Ontario gang stalking and doing so under the guise of coming in and talking about my private information, which is a violation of my privacy rights, while they're claiming to be seeking or providing housing services or housing access, and they're gang stalking at the same time. That's a violation of my privacy, and it's also referred to as what is malice, with the pattern of conduct is okay? This is called crossing the path and light activity creation while they're driving by. License 9MBP 997 is monitored, doing so with impunity. All right, mobile is gang stalking. This apartment complex is gang stalking. All of traffic is gang stalking. Druidwood Village is gang stalking. You already know that the city of Ontario is gang stalking. When the demon possessors are already showing you who you are in a federal case, you do not forget that. When they're molesting you with impossible light, when they're gang stalking you with a fake sun, replete with the entity using helicopter, you don't forget that. The city of Ontario is already established as a gang stalker. And now they're doing it with the entity that is gang stalking at the Economy Inn. This is the entity that has the fake sun. Remember, I'm standing here at 12:51 p.m. This is the same position. It's 9:38 a.m. The entity is engaged in the pattern of conduct keeping the fake sun over the Ontario Police Department at the same exact time. This is impossible to be the case. This is the evidence of stalking as a whole public entity. And this amount of people is just a fraction of those that are monitoring my vagina. Knowing exactly what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Targeting while amplified audible activity of the sound of traffic, which is impossible to hear, in the same way that the sun remaining over a venue all day long is impossible to occur in the natural environment, in the same way that sunlight is appearing on my ceiling inside of my hotel room, that's impossible as well. These are not only gang stalkers, these are the demon possessed, and this is demonic activity, and it's going to be prosecuted as federal group stalking and monitoring. It is criminal surveillance. The entity is engaged in an ongoing unlawful threat and the perpetual sex offense. It is currently 9:39 a.m. This is P.O.C. This is massive surveillance, massive. And this sun that's over me, speaking to them all, gang stalking together, this is the government acting vicariously. And this is a sex offense committed by the people of the state. And they routinely engage in targeting American citizens. Tracy Banks is going to federal court. This is P.O.C. It's currently 9:39 a.m. In the city of Ontario paid for a hotel room. We're doing so, keeping me under surveillance, game stalking me, while the fake sun remains over me. Yes. And there's some capacity, especially the population. They're walking in your light monitoring. That level of malice is the outward demonstration of mental illness. It is again currently 9:39 a.m. This is the evidence of the city of Ontario that's engaged in the pattern of conduct. Doing some impunity. This is the demon stalking the path. They're cutting off the path with regard to the pattern of conduct, and you're aware of that as you look at the impossible, the sun that is still here, and the sun is directly over me. That's the identification of the stalker, and they all are. Okay, that's P.O.C. Alrighty, that is a video that you will see published to the Google Drive. Excuse me, it will be published to the Google Drive. It'll also be published to the YouTube channel. License 9SUB962. 4LMV029, 9MBP997 is gang stalking on video, crossing path, 3TBG137, 9NIB839, 5AMV693, license plate 05315V3, 4KCY540, Impossible Light, while this sex offender driving a Tahoe, license 8GA5BRA, that's an Arizona plate. Impossible Light all across the sidewalk, the same Impossible Light that you'll see on the ceiling inside of my apartment, and none of that is sunlight. It's evidence of criminal surveillance, and those sex offenders keeping me under surveillance inside of a hotel room, that's a sex offender by definition. 6X58540, 6UEN065, 6HRA878, 6LXK485. This is the entity that engages in what is ongoing harassment and terrorism, also as you document them, which is evidence that they're keeping under surveillance, which is an unlawful intrusion in a federal case that the government is routinely engaged in, obstruction of justice. This is also relevant to the way in which the entity is going to be prosecuted. DZ48B36 paper. As you can, you're listening to me walk, I'm walking outside simultaneously. There's no earthquakes that's going to occur, no matter how fat you are. No matter what it is that you're pushing, it's not going to create any earthquakes. There's no instability on this walkway. The entity is engaged in targeting through the sensational activity creation. The entity is engaged in targeting through the amplified audible activity. The entity is engaged in targeting in the airspace like the City of Ontario is engaging in, and like the City of Ontario through the Ontario Police Department. License 8EDV437. All right, and Impossible Light activity covers this property. Light under the shaded walkway for the gang stalking purposes of the sex offenders remaining in the rooms of Economy Inn at 2301 South Euclid Avenue to keep a woman under surveillance, which is violence, sexual violence, and it's relevant to what is violence committed as an entity while they practice an unabated program of psychological torture. All right, it's currently again 9:42 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, I just want to make sure that it is abundantly clear. The entity that's engaging in what is public corruption, that is gang stalking with the people of the state, the same exact malicious pattern of conduct, the same exact unlawful threatening behavior, the pattern of conduct which is committed with the intent to commit murder and get away with it, control the narrative as the entity takes the life of a targeted individual. And then on the news, you're told about some other fact pattern about how that targeted individual was lost their life. But you know nothing about state targeting. You know nothing about gang stalking. stalking, and you're not going to hear anything about it. You'll hear something along the lines of suicide. You'll hear something along the lines of perhaps the target individual, the one who lost their life, attacked someone or threatened someone, and that's why law enforcement took their life, or that's why some other person or some accident happened. There is no such accidents. The entity engages in targeting, and when you are targeting, engaged in gang stalking, it is reasonably foreseeable that a loss of life of the target individual shall occur. That is a murder. It's a loss of homicide, and it is relevant to the entity's pattern of conduct. That's why they're gang stalking in the first place. The entity is engaging in this P.O.C., and it is not less threatening. You are looking at the exact same pattern of conduct, while the city of Ontario has provided a voucher to pay for my hotel room where I'm being gang stalked by the same city of Ontario and the same people of the state in the same specific environment. So while the Ontario Police Department maintains smiles on their faces and arrive at my room, understand that that's an unlawful threat to my life and safety, and you are still going to federal prison. All right, and it's an unlawful threat while the entity engages in what is gang stalking in the airspace, talking about, oh, we're going to go get you some, would you like any snacks or anything, or would you like another voucher to stay for another week, while the entity is stalking in helicopter over your head. And that's supposed to, analytically, I would say that that's like the converse of it's a threat. And it's the entity is engaging in what is, oh, if you want to keep these benefits, then you better not say anything about this helicopter activity, because you know if you document, you know if you expose that, you're out of this hotel room. It's analogous to the same threatening behavior, but nonetheless, there is nothing. Satan is not my source. I will document, as you have seen, while I'm sleeping outside. I'll document while they're kidnapping in a facility. I will document while the same gang stalker pays for my hotel room, and you're going to federal prison all the same. Okay, the entities engaged in that pattern of conduct, and the documentation has also proven the sex offenders that are engaged in gang stalking engage in ongoing harassment and domestic terrorism while their gang stalking pattern of conduct is exposed and published on the internet, where criminal monitoring is also underway. Okay, surveillance is underway on the internet, surveillance is underway on communication devices, surveillance is underway in relevant position, i.e. gang stalking, like I'm showing you, under the fake sun in engineered light, where the demon-possessed are surrounding. All right, it's currently 9:46 a.m. at Economy Inn, and this is P.O.C. Alrighty, it is currently 10:01 a.m. and Economy Inn, which is merely a means of identifying the people of the state. It is the people of the state collectively will remain at the facilitating venue of Economy Inn, where I'm showing you the fake sun that's simultaneously in a natural environment, not possibly over the Ontario City Hall, as I'm standing at that that state facilitating venue, and also at the facilitating venue of what is the Ontario Police Department. And for example, and those are just two examples, I'm remaining at Woodside Senior Apartments, and I'm documenting the fake sun that remains with me at or around the same time from sunrise until sunset, proven through what are images and video documentation, the entity maintaining the fake sun over me in Los Angeles at the same time of year. So in other words, this is the P.O.C. at 10 o'clock while I'm standing in front of the television, and in the room where you see engineered light on the ceiling, in the room where you see engineered light on the outside of the buildings, where the people of the state are gang stalking, the entity is engaging, and understand, this is relevant to the special needs status of the domestic terrorists who are gang stalking. This is relevant to, again, the threat, the national security threat that the government itself poses as a domestic enemy, monitoring American citizens, and then seeking to further harass and terrorize them as you expose it, enforce your constitutional and human rights, in other words, okay? The entity is engaged in what is harassment. As I stand at the television inside of this hotel room, I'm on the second floor as well. So the entity is creating what is sensational activity under my feet as I can feel it. This is while I'm standing at the television. This is pursuant to what is activity creation monitoring, and the very specific act, which is also highly demonic. It's in other words, it's entirely impossible that there's anything that is going to happen outside of an earthquake, and there's no earthquake. It's the demons who are monitoring, and it's also the demon-possessed who are special needs, their mental illness, and they are taking what is evidence that's going to prosecute them, that's going to put a lot of people in prison, that's going to remove public officials and remove departments and remove department heads and disband, for example, the Ontario Police. The demon-possessed, the mentally ill population is taking this as some sort of challenge challenge in their demented minds. They are very much delusional. This is a demonic spirit that animates all of their behavior, which is criminal conduct pursuant to surveillance. So the entity engages in this ongoing documentation of retaliatory conduct, which is psychologically harmful, and it's pursuant to criminal surveillance. And it's a sex offense inside of a private space. The entity is doing so while I am documenting. I want to be clear, this third party that is engaged in managing the venue, license 9GTD454 at Economy Inn, located at 2301 South Euclid Avenue. Already a documented kidnapper, want to be clear, and engaged in ongoing terrorism inside of the hotel room. Terrorism is documented with regard to the impossible light on my ceiling, with regard to the maintenance of a fake sun over my head, with regard to the amplified audible activity and the sensational activity created under my feet. That's with regard to very detailed and specific knowledge about where I am and what I'm doing, because there's nothing that you're doing outside of the hotel room on the first floor on Euclid Avenue on the 60 freeway while you're walking on the walkway outside that's going to cause any vibration, any shaking movement of the ground under my feet inside of this hotel room while I stand in front of the television. And the entity that is monitoring and the entity that is hostile to my documenting them monitoring me is engaging in that pattern of conduct. It's currently 10:05 a.m. Everybody remember the license plate of the entity. This is Economy Inn and its management license 9GTD454. This is the people of the state gang stalking, and this is all government action. It's all state action. This is P.O.C. at 10:05 a.m. All right, it's 11:27 a.m. and you will see the Ontario International Airport. There is no basis for them to be even in this sky space outside with regard to maintaining departure from the airport and flying to a destination. They're flying in the direction, what is south? They're flying south over my room. This would be southeast. At 11:26 a.m., you'll see the fake sun reflected off of the windshields of the vehicles with license 9SBU962 8JUN913, City of Ontario license plate 1302476. They're doing so. You already know the environment. You already know the pattern of conduct of Economy Inn. You already know the greater pattern of conduct of the state of California, and it's underway while I'm subject to the P.O.C. in the face of these people claiming to be helping with housing. It's the pattern of conduct. It is public corruption, and the City of Ontario is engaging in it. And as I document, the City of Ontario is gang stalking the Ontario Police. The demons that you also know are always engaged in stalking me under this fake sun that's over Economy Inn, where they're getting off of the 60 freeway crossing path and doing so. This is surveillance. It's currently 11:28 a.m. The images showing the City of Ontario engaging in surveillance using a commercial plane flying southeast, and it's amplified and audible activity under the idle fake sun that's over me. And a bunch of psychopaths, this is the special needs population that's engaged in public corruption, are targeting you while they're going about what is supposed to be on the surface appearing as their business, minding their business, talking to other people, and it's gang stalking. That's psychological torture. It's 11:28 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, the people of the state remaining in room 244, stalking in the path outside. They're in the engineered light that I've already captured in the hallway. They're under the fake sun that's over me at my room, and this is where the Ontario International Airport is gang stalking, flying over my room, and they're engaged in what is criminal monitoring while these are patrons of Economy Inn, and this is Economy Inn's criminal activity as well. It's currently 12:05 p.m. The pattern of conduct, as you can also see in the images, is exactly what the Ontario Housing Department engaged in. You'll see them in the same exact environment, pacing in the parking lot under the fake sun. Ontario International Airport, gang stalking, flying over my room, doing so while they are engaging in the pattern of conduct and calling it housing service provision. Threatening my life and doing so, engaging in that malicious pattern of conduct. That's a threat to your life while the government engages in psychological torture, engages in harassment, domestic terrorism while looking in your face, and engaging in what are functions of the government while engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring. It's currently 12:06 p.m. Economy Inn is targeting in concert with the patrons. It's P.O.C. All right, it is 3:03 p.m. I remain at third-party facilitating venue Economy Inn at 2301 South Euclid Avenue, where the entity is maintaining the ongoing pattern of conduct and doing so pursuant to knowledge of documentation at the same time. So the specific environment remains, and the entity is engaged in ongoing harassment. This is on the maintenance of what is earthquake-like conduct. Shaking the floor inside of my second floor hotel, and doing so pursuant to what is monitoring my activity inside of that hotel room in the specific environment. And the people of the state, license 9GTD454, that is the third party that is in the role as the management here. Engaging in surveillance in the parking lot is license 9MBP997, who you saw gang stalking under the fake sun this morning on video. And doing so while monitoring, that's a Latina female. And it is currently, the entity is maintaining ongoing light activity on Euclid Avenue while the entity is engaging in what is covering up the fake sun. So I'm going to document still, the fake sun is directly over my head. I've documented this before. And there is, by the way, at no time of day that the sun is ever going to be at this venue. So covering up the fake sun is speaking to knowledge of documentation. This is the special needs population that is exceedingly delusional, and their engagement in malicious conduct such as covering up what is a fake sun in the first place is relevant to the same federal prosecution, federal imprisonment, removal of office of corrupt officials, the prosecution of the population of the gang stalkers who are subject to what is a criminal record as a domestic terrorist, as an exceedingly violent sex offender acting as a public entity. It's relevant to the civil damages while the entity engages in delusional conduct, covering up a fake sun that at no time of day would ever be present. Not only not present, but never be present over my head, which is the ongoing course of conduct amongst these demons that are engaging in monitoring evidence. Federal stalking under Title 18. Because what the entity is doing is speaking to what is momentary and temporary. I will document the fake sun remaining over my head at the same time and after this time while the entity engages in what is monitoring on an ongoing basis. 9DRN491, DF56327, excuse me, DF56J27. That's a paper plate of demons stalking in the path at Mobile. They're crossing path monitoring right now. That's a paper plate again, DF56J27. You'll see them gang stalking at Mobile at 3:06 p.m. This is the entity that's monitoring. License KKB99. License EE94Z99 paper, 9SUB962, still parked at the venue. And the entity is engaging in what is ongoing amplified audible activity, which is monitoring, and it's also documentation of harassment and terrorism that's underway while you're being monitored. You're being gang stalked, you're being kept under surveillance inside of a private space, which is a sex offense. Okay, the entity is covering up the fake sun. I did capture the sky space above my head where the entity is always keeping the fake sun, and the documentation is already on the record of the entity having the fake sun at the same time at this venue. I've documented the fake sun from sunrise until sunset at Economy Inn. In other words, the entity is engaging in what is delusional behavior, which is relevant to the threat to your life by a government that's gang stalking you and keeping you under surveillance while doing so, and still engaging in that pattern of conduct while they engage in the delusion of, we're covering up the fake sun, so there's no pattern of conduct. This is the entity that's engaging in that very delusional conduct. That is what is mandating disbanding corrupt police departments like the Ontario Police Department. Okay, this is P.O.C. It's 3:07 p.m. And this is ongoing harassment and domestic terrorism in the specific environment. And the entity that is very much delusional will have the fake sun over the venue on an ongoing basis, and doing so at what is even a later time than now, because it remains from sunrise until sunset. That's how I have the fake sun over me from sunrise until sunset at Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles, California, where LAPD, that's the state of California, is gang stalking. That's how I have the fake sun over me at Woodside Senior Apartments at Tracy Banks' apartment, Unit 51, from sunrise until sunset, where the Ontario Police Department, that's the state of California, is gang stalking me in concert with the people of the state. That's how I have the fake sun at the Ovid Family Community Library from what would be sunrise. I just documented that the other day when I'm at that Ovid Family Community Library, and I'm also there at 6 p.m. when I exit that venue, and the entity is maintaining a fake sun from, again, morning until evening. This is the entity that's engaging in it's already documented. So the entity is very much delusional when covering up a fake sun at a venue where I have already captured from sunrise till sunset the fake sun. The entity engaging in that is speaking to their mental illness, and it's also revealing serious public corruption. Okay, and these are in fact the demon possessed that are gang stalking. It's currently 3:08 p.m. at 2301 South Euclid Avenue, and this is P.O.C. It's currently 7:03 p.m. and the entity is gang stalking, maintaining ongoing surveillance, evident through the maintenance of what is engineered light that you will see covering the property in the parking lot, where there's no position of the sun that would still be in any position where the people of the state would be driving in sunlight, nor would the sun be in any position reflecting off the building of Economy Inn. And like I documented earlier, you were witnessing the demon-possessed who are delusional. This is the special needs population stalking under a fake sun, engaging what is stalking with light, keeping one person under surveillance as a population, doing so as a demon-possessed entity that doesn't want their condition and hence their mental illness and their sexual perversion, their criminal conduct in the United States to be known by covering up a fake sun. And you're looking at what is the evidence of that fake sun that's still in the same position as it's reflecting off of the building of the same hotel where it's present, as I documented at 9:32 a.m. All right, it is currently 7:04 p.m. This is 201 South Euclid Avenue. This is a reflection, which is evidence of stalking with light, stalking with the fake sun. And this is evidence of what is non-movement of the fake sun as well. This is relevant to the malice. This is relevant to ongoing surveillance inside of the private space. And this is called crossing a path. License 6XJL164 represents the entity, the population that's gang stalking and Economy Inn. They're not driving in sunlight, they're driving in engineer light. That's impossible light activity. And the entity's engagement is a separate. It's monitoring with the Ontario Police Department, monitoring with the City of Ontario that is flying over my hotel room by commercial planes. You know, all of that by virtue of presence in the environment. This is my shadow appearing at a distance, where you just saw a demon exhibit impunity, monitoring as a public entity altogether. That's not an individual. Legally speaking, you're going to prosecute the government, and the government is acting through a population of demons who are maniacal psychopaths, sex offenders, monitoring a woman inside of a hotel room, which is a private space, and this is impossible light activity on the ground. This is the fake sun that is evident. The fake sun is present as it's reflecting off of the same building that is over my head in the morning. This is the asinity of stalking with the fake sun. This is engineer light. This is all engineer light that's covering the property. This is the fake sun itself. This is P.O.C. The entity has the fake sun over my head while I'm standing at this same entrance at 12:51 in the afternoon. And it was over me as I documented at 9:32 in the morning. The entity is engaging what is stalking with the fake sun, and you witnessed malice while the fake sun was covered up and it was still in the same place. The evidence of the fake sun documentation is relevant to what is surveillance by an entity that's not a bunch of strangers who are stalking. They are proven to be stalking, and they are the demon-possessed that are not stalking as strangers. That's the malice of the pattern of conduct where the government's engaged in surveillance. The people of the state are intentionally, knowingly driving in impossible light. Impossible light's appearing on the passenger side of their vehicles, while the fake sun is on the driver's side of their vehicles, and the fake sun is at the same location that it is this morning, because the sun is never in Florida while it's still at the same location, 2301 South Euclid Avenue, which is, by the way, not going to create any sunlight inside of Starbucks at 507 Euclid Avenue. Through the drive-through window, that's not the sun that's going to be at such a low hovering elevation that it's also still at the same address as Starbucks at 507 Euclid Avenue when I'm there in the morning at 6:33, at 7:15 when this entity committed kidnapping, like I documented on July 4, 2025. This is in conformity to the pattern of conduct, and this is also impossible while I'm over here. You're looking at the fakes that are reflecting off of this window right here. It's also impossible light activity while you saw my shadow on the ground at a distance, and this is the evidence of what is stalking the light in the whole population. Understand that my vagina is under surveillance by millions of people. All right, and Economy Inn is going to be prosecuted. They engaged in kidnapping on September 25th, 2020, while they are engaged in obstruction of justice. Kidnapping as an entity is committed by the entity that is engaged in criminal monitoring, criminal surveillance, like they are now. You're going to look at the video, slow it down, because you'll see the engineer light appearing on the passenger side of their vehicles, which is impossible light activity while they're monitoring. Every single last person is engaged in crossing a path, stalking as an entity that is maintaining perpetual presence, okay? And the entity is doing so while they commit things such as kidnapping the entity, which is bringing the entity to federal prison. That's engineer light on the inside of the building right now. And the TV 4.4, this is the gang hotel, the establishment itself that's engaged in surveillance with all the patrons and everybody that's surrounding the property. It's currently 7:08 p.m. The entity maintaining amplified audible activity, maintaining ongoing sensational activity. Nobody underneath my room is creating any earthquakes under my feet. Nobody that's walking on the walkways is causing any earthquakes and rumblings. The entity is engaged in what is harassment and targeting, which is proven through the maintenance of engineer light. The objective is to maintain engineer light for purposes of gang stalking and surveillance inside of a woman's hotel room, which is a sex offense committed by the government. It is currently 7:08 p.m. at 2301 South Euclid Avenue, and this is P.O.C. All right, it's currently 7:08 p.m. as you can hear, documenting the fake sun, just like I documented earlier. The entity is delusional. The demon possessed, this is the special needs population that's obsessed with me and is failing at and have failed from the outset because of the asininity of what the entity engages in, stalking under a fake sun. And so the entity that's engaged in what is a short-term goal, covering up the fake sun, is not deviating from the pattern of conduct. It is the same evidence of what is the entity that's engaging in surveillance, while they cover up that which was never a natural occurrence in the first place. While they cover up that which is, and by they I mean the entity, this is demonic. This is a demonic environment where the demon possessed are acting in conformity with the demonic environment that surrounds. This is entirely relevant to demon possession. And real-time surveillance of the demon possessed engage in things such as exhibiting malice, and you're also demonstrating the fact that you are aware of the documentation, because that's not the sun in the first place. That's over me in conformity to a pattern of conduct. And it's also evidence of surveillance when that fake sun that is documented remaining over me for the duration of the day is then covered up as the entity that's keeping me under surveillance anticipates that I'm going to go outside and capture that fake sun. The entity that is documented one time engaging in the pattern of conduct, meaning the fake sun at any point being over your head, is the evidence of the ongoing continuation of that pattern of conduct. The demon possessed are severely mentally ill and highly delusional. Covering up the fake sun for it to be present at the same location, which is exactly what you see while it's in alignment to me across the street, while it's reflecting off of the window of the same building, that is evidence of stalking with a fake sun, the same exact asininity relevant to the special needs status of those who are gang stalking. And with regard to a prosecution, that is the state of California and the people of the state of California engaging in the U.S. government's pattern of conduct of federal stalking and monitoring, criminal surveillance. All right, and surveillance is happening in relevant position in other words, stalking me as a public entity. Everyone around in every manner, every commercial business, everybody driving on the roads and the highways, all of the means of surveillance in the sky space, plane and helicopter, while the entity is keeping me under surveillance as an entire population, an entire objective. This is the special needs population that is engaged in the pattern of conduct, all right? The entity is engaged in what is inherently harassing, inherently terrorizing, and this is relevant to that P.O.C. and economy N is engaging in it. And the fact that the entity already engaged in gang stalking as a matter of record and is engaging in it as I return to this venue is relevant to noting what is impunity and malice, an unlawful threat posed to an American citizen, which is entirely relevant to federal prison and civil damages and that prosecution of the government. All right, it's currently 7:11 p.m. This is P.O.C. at Economy Inn, where I'm documenting the fake sun that's not at the same time remaining over Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue. It's not at the same time going to be in Los Angeles, especially when it did not leave from being over me at this venue today, even when it was covered up this afternoon, okay? For it to still be at the same location, reflecting off of the same property. I'm at the same property, so it's reflecting off of the window of the same property. That's the fake sun not moving, all right? The entity's engaging in that which is never going to be in LA. It's never going to be in Florida, while it's remaining over my head at 9:32 in the morning, and it is still at the same location, close enough to be reflecting off of a window, aiming what is engineered light on my person, while I'm at the same property that I was at 9:32 a.m. There's no sun that's in Florida based on the asininity that the demon-possessed are engaging in keeping me under surveillance. There's no sun at the same time of year in Los Angeles, contrary to what I documented in Los Angeles, where the LAPD were engaged in what is criminal surveillance and keeping a fake sun over me from sunrise until sunset, like I also documented in LA. All right? It is currently 7:12 p.m. on July 17, 2025, and this is P. Alrighty, it is currently 7:20 p.m. and the entity that engages in amplifying plane activity as I walk into the bathroom in order to monitor my vagina is the same entity that's filling the hotel with gang stalking patrons. Like you saw this morning, the demons gang stalking as a family. This is a female with, I believe, an adult male and the younger child. They're all engaged in federal stalking together under the fake sun and an engineered light in the adjacent room, which I believe was 244. Gang stalking, and the entity is amplifying the sound of like stomping footsteps, which is impossible audible activity. The demons are monitoring my vagina together while they know where I'm at inside of the room, pursuant to gang stalking. This is the special needs population that engages in also molesting me with impossible light activity, and that are also engaged in what is a demonic ritualistic conduct
of pacing incessantly as a population while a fake sun remains over my head, and they essentially engage in what is worshiping me. They also worship my vagina. So everything concerning about me in the bathroom is why they are engaging in what is stalking me as I walk into the bathroom, and this is how heavy duty their stalking conduct is. The demon-possessed engage in all manner of ongoing psychotic behavior, which is also sexually perverted. It's currently 7:21 p.m. This is relevant to the video documentation that you just heard, and that is the evidence of what exactly the economy and venue is engaged in. The hotel itself is going to be prosecuted for the sex offense, and so is the management that are engaged in what is gang stalking pursuant to what is a documented federal offense of kidnapping me while gang stalking, and they're gang stalking with the population, including the city of Ontario, which is maintaining surveillance of my vagina inside of the bathroom, while ongoing terrorism in the form of what is amplifying the demons that are pacing all around outside of my hotel room, while they are all jointly aware of my presence inside of that restroom. And the evidence of a fake sun at 7 p.m. in the evening is the direct evidence against the sex offender that are the people of the state. It's 7:22 p.m. at Economy Inn at 2301 South Euclid Avenue. This is P.O.C.